Hey everyone, welcome back to the Self Starter Podcast. My name is Nicole and I'm here with Nata. She's a really awesome friend who I met at the Creative Educator Conference. Scout just joined in, so I'm gonna put it down. Hold on. All right. I love
Let's
you.
go.
I love you. You're the best. Okay. All right, so we have Nata here, and I'm really excited to have her on the podcast. I met her at the Creative Educator Conference back in January. So, Nata, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was a great conference in January, so I'm happy that we had some connections and we're able to get together again. I am a wedding photographer in Florida, multi-business owner, really, in Jacksonville, Florida, currently. And I'm excited to just chat with you guys and share some of the things that I've gone through and see if you can get some good tips.
I love it. She was just telling me about all her different businesses. She's got a lot going on and she kills them all. So it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, tell us more about your business, how you got started, and kind of your journey to get to this point.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about all the things that I do, and then we'll focus on the wedding photography business because I think that will
Yeah.
be the most helpful for everybody. And that's the one really that I've grown the longest.
Mhm.
So came from a healthcare career into entrepreneurship. I now own two different photo and video businesses that serve the wedding community. I'm also a business coach and an educator and speaker in the creative community. I launched an app for wedding photographers and wedding planners last year and own a couple of Airbnbs in Brazil. So lots going on when it comes from a business standpoint, but really what kind of created the basis for me to grow all these other businesses was my main photo and video business, which is NS Photo Book. And that started with just me a few years ago when I transitioned out of healthcare, and now it's a whole team of people.
I love it. I love it. I think telling us about your team is going to be really beneficial for the audience. So, we're going to be talking about how Nada has built an amazing team in her business. If you don't already know, I'm a team of one. So, it's just me over here. And I have an assistant that helps me sometimes, but I'm really just not. I think it's more of a control thing and I need to like let go of it. But I have like consistent second shooters that I work with. They're actually family members that I've trained and they're awesome. So, I have like that, those types of things, people that are contractors that work here and there for me, but nothing super consistent in my business. So tell me how you got started hiring and maybe about your team currently as it is right now.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the control thing, so I'll start with that a little bit. I
Yeah.
think it's a thing that we all kind of go through as business owners. Like we've put so much energy and effort into growing this business. It's our little
Yeah.
baby, and we're so proud of it, and we're the face of it. So when it comes to, scaling and starting to delegate things, it's hard. It's not an easy process. I'm actually going through a book now called The E-Myth, and he
Mm,
talks about the process of understanding the different personalities of a business owner. You have the entrepreneur, you have the manager, and then you have the technical
yeah.
worker. And a lot of us came from a place of being really good at the technical work. We're really good at doing the thing.
Yeah.
But we are maybe not so good in managing things or
Mm,
in thinking, dreaming of the path of the business and where it's going to go.
mm,
So that's where that lack of um, willingness to give control kind of comes from, because you're just so into the doing of the thing that you don't want to share that process with anybody. So
mm.
probably I would say 2 years or so into the process of owning my own business, I realized that I was saying no to a lot of people. I was having to turn people down because I was getting full very fast. I'll book about a year to a year and a half in advance for a lot of our couples. So I was having to turn a lot of people down, and that means I was leaving a lot of money on the table.
Yeah.
So obviously, a lot of I've had people second shooting with me because doing a wedding by yourself, one, is not easy. Second, it's just not fun. I'd rather
No.
have somebody there with me. that we can, troubleshoot together, we can problem solve together, we can laugh together, we
Mhm.
can, cry together if we need to. But, having somebody there to kind of support you and be with you as part of your team, I feel like it makes that wedding day a lot more manageable. So I realized that I should stop leaving money on the table and letting people go and find somebody else, and just keep the business within my own business. So, and that also came from people having bad experiences. I couldn't tend to them, I couldn't serve them because I was already booked. And some people went on and hired some not so great teams out there and had a bad experience, and it came back to me and asked them to redo their pictures. And you
Mhm.
can't redo that whole day. It's a
Yeah.
very important day that comes and goes and needs to be captured the right way. So out of all of that together kind of came the understanding that it was time to grow. It was time to expand. Let's start booking 2 weddings in a day if we had to. Let's start expanding things a little bit more. So that's kind of how that came around. And first, what I started doing was actually adding a service to it. So I added video to my
Okay.
company first. That was the first growing arm of the business. Is I noticed a lot of people regretted not having video as part of their wedding day. So we started with video, and then I started adding associates into the company as well.
Mm, I love that. I think that's so important to remember is I like what you said when you said you were leaving money on the table. And I think that's so important to remember when you're thinking about hiring or outsourcing is regardless of what you're doing, whether it's like an associate team like you have, or whether it's like an assistant in your day-to-day of your business, right? Which I think you kind of have someone like that too, which we can talk
Hmm.
about. But either way, like either whatever it is, if it's like an agency model and you're hiring out like contractors or it's like a day-to-day assistant or like someone you're outsourcing to,
Yeah.
you're leaving money on the table if you're not using someone to help because you get to a point where, and this is what I'm running into, is you get to a point where it's not worth your time to do these tasks that someone else could do for cheaper, technically, because my
Yep.
hourly rate at this point is much higher than someone I could pay $20 an hour to do some of these like more basic tasks like podcast management or blogging or
Hmm.
things like that. And so either way, you really are leaving money on the table. And I think something that holds people back a lot from outsourcing, which has held me back a little bit, is you're like, oh, I don't really want to invest in that, or I don't really want to spend the money to have someone else help me, but you're actually kind of losing money by
Yeah.
not having someone help you, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of I like that you said, like, I was leaving money on the table and I decided something had to change. That's really
Yeah.
good.
I'm a big believer that you have to spend money to make money. I
Yes.
understood that very early on my, journey as an entrepreneur. So I truly believe that making sure that you have a good team of whatever that team means to you. It could be a virtual assistant, it could be people that actually work in your business with you. It's just important to allow you to sit back into that entrepreneurial seat and dream for your business and
Yeah.
having those thinking moments of how are you going to things how you want things to look like and how you want to grow as a business, because you don't have time to do that if you're in the grind every day doing everything. So
100%. Yeah.
yeah, so that's how we
100%.
decided to grow and expand.
Yeah, I love that. Someone told me, I don't know if it was on a podcast or someone else in a conversation, but someone was saying you shouldn't be working in your business as much as you're working on your business. And so
Correct.
when you're working in it, like the day-to-day things, you're being distracted from actually like growing your business, working on it, doing the things that move the needle forward and the visionary things, the CEO things, not as podcast is called accidental CEO. So being the actual CEO rather than a worker in your business,
Yeah.
huge distinction. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what I did, talking back about the control, I was very strategic when I try to, choose the people to join my team, because I'm very proud of my business, of how I grew it, how fast I grew it, the quality of the service that I offered. That was all very important to me, that there wasn't going to be
Mhm.
any difference on the kind of service that we were offering. Sorry.
It's my
So So at the end of the day, my main philosophy when hiring people was I was hiring them based on their personality
Mhm.
and their accountability, just them as a person versus this kind of skills that they had. Because
Yeah.
I can teach anybody how to use a camera if they need to. I can teach them skills. I've done classes with my team,
Mhm.
but I cannot teach you somebody how to care. I cannot
Yeah.
teach somebody how to be respectful, how to be accountable. All of these things are to me very important. So if you start building your team from personal characteristics, from the people side of things first and skill second, I think you have a higher chance of being successful with having a team that you're proud of, having a team that you can trust, and
Mm.
that you don't feel scared about giving control to.
I love that. I'm gonna make that a quote that I'm gonna put on my wall. People first, skills second. I love that.
Yes,
It's great. Yeah.
100%.
It really is. So, okay, piggybacking off of what you're saying. So how did your hiring process look? Walk me through that because I feel like that's another thing that holds people back from hiring is like I don't know where to start. Like how do I even find these people? Do I post an
Mhm.
do I make an application? Do I do an interview? Like is it on a call or is it a Zoom? Like walk
Yeah.
us through the whole process of how you started doing that.
I did have an official like application. I
Mm.
actually, posted on Instagram and Facebook and, everywhere I had reach that I was growing my team. It was time to grow. It was just a lot going on and I want people to join the team. There was very specific things that I wanted people to have and bring to the table. But really the most important thing is I wanted to meet face to face. I wanted to talk. I wanted to be able to get a feel for who you are. But I also reached out to people that I have met, maybe teaching classes, because I teach some local classes for like posing courses and things like that. So I've met some people during those classes that I really liked. I liked their personality. I like how they reacted to things, how they took the information and applied it. So I specifically reached out to some people that I was interested in getting to know a little bit more, that I already knew were out there, and invited them to apply and have a conversation to see if they wanted to be part of the team. So I kind of kept that mental note of a few people around town that I wanted to work with that maybe I've crossed paths with. And they were willing to do some associate work, and definitely reached out to those people when I put out an application. And face-to-face interviews, 100% necessary. Don't skip that. Don't be
Mhm.
lazy about it.
Yeah.
I do that with my own clients when I'm booking weddings. I meet with everybody face-to-face, or at least via Zoom if they're not in town.
Yeah.
But I think that part is very important because if people cannot look good and behave for 30 minutes to an hour, it's very unlikely they're going to be acting differently under pressure.
That's so true. That's so true.
Yep.
Yeah. And I feel like we can, I don't know, in the it's such a contradiction, but I feel like in the digital age, it is easy to shy away from like the face-to-face interaction.
Hmm.
So having those interviews, I think, is really important. And also setting expectations in that interview too, and saying like,
Yeah.
hey, this needs to be as good of a fit for you as it is for me. Like it needs to
Hmm.
be something that you're gonna really enjoy and that you're gonna like and that you're a good fit for, and it goes both ways. Yeah, I love that. So tell me more about, so you said you have an associate team now for photographers and then you
Yeah.
have some videographers, right?
Hmm.
Okay. And then tell me more about because I know you have a podcast. I think maybe she's a podcast manager or an assistant.
Yeah.
But do you have any more people that work day to day in your business?
So our photo team now is probably composed of, I would say there's six of us. There's six photographers
Awesome.
and four videographers in the team right now.
Cool.
So our photo video team is pretty large. And, I'm always looking for new people that could potentially join the team. Because we don't have a big turnaround in our team, but everybody still have their own business. Everybody still has their own thing. So I don't, obviously their businesses are priority.
Mhm.
And I feel like I'm pretty generous with how we schedule things. So if I schedule them for a wedding and, it's a few months down the road, if they book themselves, they're allowed to step back,
Mhm.
and we'll find somebody else to take that spot because I rather than make more money working for themselves
Mhm.
than work for me. So I'm 100% fine with that. Everybody has bills to pay and, family to take care of. So I'm fine with them taking priority in their own business if they book themselves, but they know that that job is there for them in case nothing comes along. So
I love
so
that.
that's how we kind of run the team for photo and video. I have this year is the first time we started a little bit at the end of last year that I have a creative assistant. And she's actually one of my photographers as well. That kind of has always been my go-to and the person that is really into the business and really helping from a accountability standpoint, but also from a loyalty standpoint. She's a person that is, always there and always making sure that I know it's just thundered over here.
I
And
didn't.
always make sure that the business that she's representing the business well. So she wanted to step in and help a little bit more on an admin standpoint. So Nikki has been my right hand girl now for some of the business side of things as well.
I love that. I love that you started out with people that you know and that you
Mhm.
trust, because I think we can make it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. And we can really probably start with our community and the people that we're already connected to and maybe see if they can help us before we put out like an actual application. So
Yeah.
I like that you started with people that you already knew and trusted. Tell me more about when you were hiring for this creative assistant that you have now. How did you go about figuring out which tasks she was going to do for you? And how was the process of like training her and all that? Because I think that can be very daunting as well.
Yeah. So I have a business coach myself that, I work with on a regular basis. So we actually got together and start writing down things that didn't really need my expertise to be done. There are maybe more technical things. They're more logging of data. They're answering certain emails or reaching out to people for certain things. So things that are easily teachable skills that don't need my time and expertise to be done. So, and also as I went through things, I kind of kept a note on the side and like, these is something that, an assistant can do. This is something an assistant can do. So I'll kind of build that list as I work through my week. And every time something else came up, I was like, okay, this is something I can delegate to
Mhm.
an assistant. So I recommend definitely going through maybe a week or two of work, writing things down of the things that you actually think that can be delegated to somebody else. But also have a very honest conversation with yourself. Is like, are you holding on to certain tasks because you feel like you need to control that? Do you really need to do it? Is that something that you
Mhm.
really need to spend your time doing? Or maybe there's something that you actually like doing that maybe you don't need to do, but you really enjoy putting albums together for your
Mhm.
clients.
Yeah.
And that's okay to keep those things in your list because they bring you joy and you like doing them. But understanding that if things pick up and if you need to free up some more space, that maybe that's first thing in the list that you can
Mhm.
delegate, even if it's temporarily, to somebody to help you. So that's mainly how we came up with all the task list. Um, we keep it organized. We keep it in Trello. There's things that are done daily. There's things that are done weekly. Things are done monthly, and there are things that are done kind of ad hoc. So we kind of try to keep that organized for her. And then from a training standpoint, again, I'm a very in-person person, so I try to do some of the training, when we're together. But we used Loom a lot. So
Mhm.
every time I'm going to jump on a system, maybe I'm creating a group in Flowdesk that I need to send certain emails to. I just click on my Loom and go ahead and record a video as I'm explaining what I'm doing, and then I can create a library of SOPs for
Mhm.
whoever is going to be helping me. So that's kind
That's
of how we
awesome.
did the training.
Yeah, I love that. I think the list thing is great. So with my coaching clients, I encourage them to make a love it and don't love it list. And then I
Hmm.
also encourage them to make a like profitable, not profitable list. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like a Venn diagram, and we see where all of them kind of intersect. Um, but basically, I always tell people if you love it and it's making you money, then do it. If you don't love it and it's not making you money, like either someone else needs to do it or you don't need to do it at all.
Yeah.
And then if you don't love it but it's making you money, then you need to decide, are you the expert in doing it or can someone else do it better and cheaper?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like to tell people make those types of lists. But then also, like you were saying, the control aspect is, what I say to my clients is what is going to protect your creative capital. And so creative capital, what I say creative capital is basically your ability to create and ideate in your business, like we were talking about earlier, being the
Mm-hmm.
CEO. And so we need to protect our creative capital at all costs. And if something's draining that from your life, then that's probably the first place you need to outsource. Would
Yeah.
you would you probably agree with that? Yeah. Okay.
100%. Yeah, giving yourself that time to continue to grow your business so you don't die in 2 or 5 years down the road is very, very important. If you stop being the CEO of your business,
Mhm.
being the dreamer, there's no room to grow. And you're
Yeah.
either going to be stagnant at where you are, and if that's okay, if you're content with that,
Yeah.
or you just maybe not going to have a business in a few years. So,
Yeah, 100%. And business ownership can be very lonely at times. Like we talked about on your podcast, how it's so helpful to have a supportive spouse. But even a supportive spouse can't always quite understand if they're not in the business with you. They
yeah.
can't always quite understand like what it is you're going through. So having a team member and also a business coach, I think is so important because it is very lonely and it can be very isolating at times, and if you have someone that you can delegate to or just bounce ideas off of, like a coach or an assistant,
Mhm.
it makes a world of difference, I think.
Yeah. And I think another thing when it comes to building a team that people neglect a lot of times is making sure that you're just taking really great care of your team so they want
Yeah.
to be there for you because
Mhm.
this is not their business.
Yeah.
People are selfish by nature.
Yeah.
They want to know what's in it for them. Your
Mhm.
team does not care about your dreams and your goals unless it aligns with something that interests them or something that benefits them. And that's just reality.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
just human nature. It's
Mhm.
not to be mean to anybody. So,
Yeah.
making sure that you take care of them. So I try to pay them very fairly.
Mhm.
We have our annual party at the end of the year to kind of celebrate and get together. I take care of little things here and there when we're out. If we have a travel um, assignment, I'll make sure that I'm the one driving,
Mhm.
so they don't have to, put any wear and tear in their car. I'm paying for the gas. I'm paying for their food. So things that are just outside of the norm that people appreciate, and they'll be more willing to be there for your business and represent your business well if they feel like you care about them. So
Yeah.
don't neglect taking care of your team really well,
Mhm.
because that's when you're going to see a lot of the turnaround or people, just backing out in the last minute and not really
Yeah.
caring about representing you and your business really well.
I love that. Yeah. In the same way we serve our clients, it's important to serve our
Yeah.
teams as well, too, I think. Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me, so for our listeners, let's say maybe they've never outsourced before, they don't know where to start. What would be the top thing that they should look at, or how could they determine the first person to hire?
Yeah, I would say take a look at where are you spending the majority of your time.
Yeah.
So for certain people, it might be, I'm just shooting. I'm just shooting a lot of weddings and I'm just drowning. I can't edit. I don't have time to edit. I'm shooting a lot. So that might be that you need to start with an editor
Mm-hmm.
or somebody to help you photograph weddings. Or maybe you're spending most of your time in the back end of things. You're answering emails, you
Hmm.
were putting together timelines, whatever it is, then maybe that's where you need to look into where you can
Yeah.
outsource. So first, maybe think about where you're spending the majority of your time in. Is there where you need to be spending the majority of your time in?
Yeah.
And then determine if you can find somebody to help you with that specific portion of your time. That might be the first place to go.
Hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I love that. Okay. Thank you so much for this talk. I have one more question for you, maybe a little
Yeah.
bit uncomfortable, but we'll see what you think about it. Have you ever had any bad experiences, or maybe not bad, but like less than ideal experiences with a team member or hiring or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, people are people. People are gonna people, right? So I've had experiences where maybe somebody wasn't as willing to go above and beyond as I would.
Mhm,
And there's a certain expectation of the brand and what we offer. So maybe attention to detail or just that accountability of being there and doing the things that were expected from a client. Um, and in a very minor way, I'm sorry. I have very good teammates that, for the most part, are very professional. They are dedicated, and if anything, would be maybe they did things a little bit different than what I would have done.
mhm,
And because people have known me for a while now, they kind of follow us in social media before they hire us. They kind of know what to expect. Maybe there was a mismatch on the expectations of
mhm,
what they were expecting from the team. But again, to a small degree, nothing that
mhm.
required big management from my end to,
Okay.
an upset client or anything like that, but maybe some feedback on things I could have done a little bit differently.
Mhm. So you'd say maybe communication and just
Yeah.
managing expectations is probably the biggest way to handle any sort of like negative or kind of bad
Oh,
experiences.
yeah. And that goes for everything in your business, from your
Yeah.
clients to your team. If you're setting up good expectations of what things are going to look like, you avoid a lot of, negative feedback and people that are not happy in the end.
Mhm. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, Nata. It's been great having you, and I know this topic is really valuable to my audience. I don't think I've ever talked about it before, so thank you so much for bringing your knowledge and expertise to us. I would
Perfect.
love for you to share how everyone can find you and connect with you because you're amazing, and I want them to follow you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. So if you want to look at our wedding, business, you can look at NS Photobook Weddings on Instagram. The coaching that I do is at Photo Biz Education. Our app is at Timeline Pro app.
Yes.
So you can check all of those things. And then the podcast is the Accidental CEO Pod on Instagram as well.
I love it. And I'm going to put links in the show notes for all of those so you can find Nata. But thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to my audience for joining us again. I'll see you next time on the podcast. Bye.